always believed marriage was a promise you lived out, not just a vow you said. For 10 years I showed up, not just physically but emotionally, mentally, and soul deep. I wasn't perfect, but I was constant. I folded her laundry the way she liked, even though I never understood why socks needed to be rolled that specific way. I brought her coffee in bed every Sunday morning, even if she didn't always say thank you. I took pictures of her when she wasn't looking because I thought she was most beautiful when she wasn't trying. I never expected her to write me poetry or hang love letters on the fridge, but I did expect honesty. What I never imagined, what shattered me in a way I didn't see coming, was hearing my wife tell her mother that I would make the perfect ex-husband. It wasn't even something I was meant to hear. I had come home early from work that day because the meeting got canceled, and I thought surprising her with her favorite donuts from that little shop downtown would make her smile. Instead, I stepped into a quiet living room, the smell of lavender candles still hanging in the air, and her voice, soft, half-laughing, drifting from the kitchen. At first, I froze at the sound of her on the phone, not because I was eavesdropping on purpose, but because something in her tone made my heart clench. She wasn't angry. She wasn't venting about a fight. She sounded amused. "No, Mom," she said, chuckling. "I'm serious. He'd make the perfect ex-husband. So polite. So easy to manipulate. I could leave tomorrow and he'd probably still come around to mow the lawn or fix the garage door. He's dependable like that." Then she laughed. Full carefree light. My heart didn't break. It collapsed. Something inside me caved inward like a building being quietly demolished from the inside. The bag of donuts slipped from my hand and landed softly on the carpet, but I didn't move. I couldn't. Every word that followed felt like a slap I hadn't earned. Honestly, he's just so comfortable. Too nice even. No challenge. No fire. I think I just settled because he made me feel safe, not excited. I didn't hear anything else after that. Not really. Just noise. Static. The kind that fills your head when you realize the person you thought knew your heart has been holding an entirely different version of you in theirs. One that's disposable, predictable, laughable. I left the house quietly, donut bag untouched, keys still in my pocket. I don't remember the drive. I just remember wondering how many times she'd smiled at me while secretly imagining her life after me. I drove without direction for what felt like hours. The city blurred past me, the familiar roads suddenly foreign, like I was floating through someone else's life. I ended up at an old gas station outside of town, a place we once stopped at during a weekend trip early in our marriage. I remember she had forgotten her toothbrush and bought one of those cheap pink travel ones from the rack near the counter. I teased her for days because it had glitter in the handle, and she swore it was the best brush she ever used. Funny the things that stay with you. That night, I parked in the same spot and just sat there, staring at nothing, holding the steering wheel like it was the only thing keeping me grounded. My mind kept replaying her words. The perfect ex-husband. Not even bad husband or unloving. Just expendable. Safe. Like a loyal tool she could put back on the shelf and pick up when it suited her. I wanted to believe she didn't mean it. That it was just a poor choice of words said in jest, twisted by stress or boredom, or even her mother's influence. But it didn't feel like a joke. It felt practiced. Familiar. Like she'd said it before. I thought of all the little things. The way she'd been more distant lately. How her eyes didn't light up the way they used to when I walked into the room. How she started spending more weekends at her sister's place, always saying she needed girl time. I used to tell myself it was normal. That marriages evolve. That people need space. But deep down I think I knew. I just didn't want to admit it. What broke me wasn't just that she saw me as replaceable. It was that she never said any of it to me. I gave her my trust, my loyalty, my everyday effort, and in return, she gave her honesty to someone else. That realization clawed at my insides. It wasn't anger I felt, not yet. It was grief. The grief of watching a version of our love die silently while I was still trying to water it, still trying to keep it alive. I sat in that car, flipping through mental pictures. The night I proposed under the old bridge, the first time she fell asleep on my chest watching bad TV, the day we bought our dog. I wondered if any of it had ever really meant something to her. Or if I had been loving alone this whole time. Was I just a phase of comfort she settled for until life offered her something more exciting? And if so, what did that say about me? I didn't go home that night. I couldn't. The idea of walking through that front door and pretending everything was okay made my chest tighten. So I slept in the car, wrapped in silence and the glow of a distant gas station light. By morning, the world hadn't changed, just me. Something inside had hardened, not into hate, but into clarity. I had spent so long trying to be the kind of husband who made life easier for her, simpler. But in doing so, I had erased parts of myself, my voice, my needs, my worth. I wasn't the perfect ex-husband. I was just the husband who kept trying long after she had stopped noticing. When I finally returned home the next afternoon, she was in the kitchen, humming as she chopped vegetables. She smiled when she saw me. That same sweet, familiar smile I had once melted under. "Hey, I didn't hear you come in," she said casually. I stood there, just looking at her, wondering how someone could say those things behind my back, and then act as if nothing had happened. I didn't lash out. I didn't scream. I just said her name, quietly. And when her eyes met mine, she knew. I saw it. The flicker of panic, confusion, then guilt. "How much did you hear?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Enough," I replied. She tried to explain, of course. Said it was a dumb joke, something taken out of context. That she didn't mean it like that. That her mom had been pressuring her about something. And she was just venting. I let her talk, watching the words tumble out of her mouth like a poorly rehearsed monologue. But the damage was already done. It wasn't just what she said. It was that she never once thought how it would feel if I found out. I realized in that moment, she didn't fear losing me, because she never thought I'd leave. That was her mistake. I didn't shout. I didn't argue. I simply said, "You don't have to explain it away. You've already told the truth, just not to me." Her eyes welled up. Maybe with guilt. Maybe regret. Maybe just the realization that I wasn't going to beg to stay. I packed a bag that evening. Not everything. Just enough. The essentials. She stood at the door, arms crossed, face blank. When I passed her, she whispered, "So that's it." I paused, looked back at her, and offered a faint smile. The same polite, dependable smile she once admired. "You were right," I said. "I do make a perfect ex-husband." Then I walked away. And for once, I wasn't the one being left behind.